Hi, my name's Sean Taylor. That
Do
guy
white
down
people
there
drink
is.
Sprite when they're sick also?
I don't know. I was always a 7 Up guy, personally.
I just
I.
thought I'll interrupt you right before.
Are 7 Up and Sprite the same? I feel like 7 Up tastes worse than Sprite, personally.
They're similar.
I mean, they're similar. I would pick Sprite every time, but 7 Up was the when we were
I would
sick.
too.
But anyway,
I
that.
used I used to be more of a Sierra Mist person. There's
Oh,
really
me
no
too.
difference between
Absolutely.
any of them.
Yeah, I was a big Sierra Mist fan. That
I
down
think I
there
do think
is.
Sierra Mist and Sprite taste. I do think Sierra Mist and Sprite taste more alike than Seven Up and Sprite.
That right. 7 Up is the outlier of those three,
Yeah.
I think. And this has been Sodas with Sean and Chris. Thanks for watching. We'll come back to you next time. That's your host down there, Chris, aka the
Sodas.
Objective
Wait a
Geek.
minute, Sean. Soda. You call it soda? Do you call it? What do you call it? What do you call carbonated beverages?
When I was younger, I said pop because that's what grandma said. And when I got older and moved to Lawrence, I started saying soda because that's what people in Lawrence said.
I always say pop.
I think
I
pop,
always
like,
call it pop.
remember, I'm from Wichita area, you're Oklahoma City. Like, I think South,
Well, I'm
maybe
Tulsa,
pop. I think it's pop people.
yeah.
But Lawrence, it was soda for the most part.
Okay.
No, I could be wrong.
That sometimes my kids, one of them calls it soda. I'm like, who are you?
Maybe the diversity, relative diversity, at least for the state of Kansas, in Lawrence lends itself on campus to hearing the word soda. But no, pop as a
That's true.
kid, soda as an adult. We just spent a minute and 55 seconds telling you about Sprite and Sierra Mist and 7 Up. And also Mountain, no, not Mountain Dew and Mountain
No.
Lightning. There's another generic, like the Shasta brand of lemon lime soda, whatever. There's probably a billion of them. That's your host, Chris, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter semi fame. My name's Sean Shaler, and we're going to try to find enough time in between coughing and hacking and muting our microphones to tell you about one more episode, which is Korra Alone. So, Book 4, Balance, Chapter 2, Korra Alone. I know Chris is pretty jacked for this one. I'm excited to share my feelings as well. Chris, any notes whatsoever would you like to share before jumping the episode? We talked about Christmas and New Year's and stuff already.
Yeah.
What's left?
I am not doing the Wakanda chant thing. I'm just warming my chest because in Batman Begins, I
Because
remember
he is
Liam Neeson
sick and
saying,
he's cold, actually.
yeah, I remember Liam Neeson saying like to Bruce Wayne when he fell into the lake water or the Arctic water, says, "Warm your chest, your arms will take care of themselves." As he was rubbing his arms first, and so that's life lesson. Anyway, I'm doing good, Sean.
No, I
Doing,
remember that very well. That that specific
and it makes
scene.
sense because your arms are producing just them rotating are probably producing some type of heat, but your chest's not doing anything. So like you're being
And all of
more,
it's escaping through here. Like get more insulation and everything
yeah,
right here.
yeah.
I agree with that entirely. My my biggest fear right now is that, my wife is at a party. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go to bed. But my bed, the temperature in my bed is going to be all off because my personal heater isn't going to be here anymore. So I'm thinking right now,
Mm.
like, how am I going to combat this freezing cold I'm going to experience in bed later? I'm going to go like that. I'm going
Real.
to go like
This
this.
might this might be getting too personal. But marriage tip, at least one that I do, is that have different blankets.
We
That's
we used to feud about this all the time. I wanted different blankets. Heather did not, and it was like as close to a legitimate argument probably as we've ever had.
that's
Um,
hilarious.
but Chris, no, I've gone to the dark side. I'm a cuddler now. I don't want separate blankets now. I used to. Now I don't.
The thing is, it's like, yeah, cuddling's great, no doubt about it. But maybe just my wife doesn't.
Heather
She's too,
doesn't care. She's gonna fall asleep like immediately, one way or the
my
other, as
wife's
soon as
not
you
a
turn
good
your head.
sleeper anyway, so cuddling at middle of the night is not an option anyway.
I'm the
Like,
bad sleeper, so I get cold. I'm laying awake, just staring at the ceiling. I'm like, I'm cold. I'm gonna go snuggle. She don't even
I
notice.
love. Okay, I love having my own blanket. I just wrap myself up like a burrito, sort of sleep like a vampire, but face down for some reason,
S-
like this. Am I?
Swaddled,
Because
swaddled like a baby, but face down, well,
like just
like your
my
parents
hands
hate
to the
you.
side. And I wake up, my pinkies are all jacked up because there's like a tendon that's like wrapped around your bone when you
Yeah.
when you hold it there too long. I'm like, I can't feel my pinky, but it doesn't happen that often.
No, Chris, that sounds
But
terrible.
lately, okay. Also, some advice for people: if you more advice that you need to know. If you wake up in the middle of the night, I guess it's for guys. You gotta pee. I recommend sitting down because for some reason, like I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, I gotta go pee, and because usually I wake up, I fall asleep on the couch down in my basement, and I get up to go to bed. I'm like, I didn't pee before I go to bed. Like I'm still half asleep, and I stand up. I'm standing up for a while, so I feel like my legs are like, no, you're not supposed to be standing up, so they go to sleep. And then recently, I just fell on the floor. Like
What?
after I was done, my literally like on the floor. Like right after I was done, I was like, I should have known. Don't do that.
I think what you're experiencing is more of a heavy sleeper thing because
Could be.
as a light sleeper, if I wake up and I have to go pee, I have to make a decision because like as soon as I stand upright, like I'm awake,
The
and it's not that
adrenaline is pumping in your leg.
yeah, and so it's not that I can't fall back asleep, but I can't like sustain the that sleepiness that you're talking about. So I have to lay there and make a pretty conscious decision.
That
Unfortunately,
could be the case too. That could be the case.
I don't know. Ask your wife sometime. Be like, hey, when you wake up to pee, have you ever just fallen over?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it might be the sitting down thing that helps. I think it might help to sit down so you get it. But anyway,
Your
not
legs are
important.
like still in their state that they're expecting to be in. That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll try it sometime.
I mean, if you're not having a problem with your balance or your equilibrium,
Not so
I mean, I've
far, but
had, yeah,
maybe
okay, well, I think
maybe
you're good.
sitting back down would help me fall asleep faster or something.
I
Who
had
knows?
issues. I mean, I haven't happened several times before, but I've never just fallen straight up on the floor like I'm drunk or something. I've never been drunk before, so that I've been really tipsy one time.
I mean, I
Uh,
never was drunk enough to just fall straight over, but it's funny to like picture you in your house when everybody else is sleeping and just all of a sudden just
I'm like, did somebody hear that?
no, hear what? Somebody must be breaking in. I definitely didn't fall over for a
Yeah,
reason. Hey,
it
getting
was
old
dad
is
again. He
get,
forgot to pee sitting down.
getting old is weird.
Sorry, anyone. Too much information. You learned a lot about me today. Learned how to
About
sleep.
soda and sitting down when you pee.
Yeah.
Hey, this real world stuff is what it is, Chris. It's real world stuff. But let's get to fake world stuff, which is the Legend
Yes.
of Korra.
But there's
And
some real stuff in here.
there's some real heavy
Real
stuff in
stuff.
here. Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this episode, to be honest. Because this episode, one thing, it bounces around a lot, but I think in a good way. Just hard to recap it in a certain sense.
It's not very
I watched a
chronological.
commentary. I watched a commentary on this episode, and Brian and Mike were like, "Yeah, we have to really fight to to show it out of order in the way you want to show it. We had really had to fight the network for that." And they said like, "No, but I really wanted it to happen and work." And Jenny Varney was also on this episode, and one of the reasons why they wanted to do it like this, sorry, was because they're like, Brian had a friend. And his friend was like, trauma. Like when it comes to trauma and like PTSD and stuff like that, like time isn't linear. Like there are so many things happening to you at once. Like you're reliving a bunch of things at the same time. Uh, that it makes sense why it would kind of be like this. Uh, which makes which makes that person feels like a not four dimensional, fifth dimensional person.
Especially when
You know,
you're
a fifth dimensional being. You know, they technically live. Well, they're very theoretically. The fifth dimensional being, we are four dimensional beings, right? We move in 3D in 3D spaces, but we also move in a four dimensional space, which is time, but we can only move in one uh, one way, right? But a fifth dimensional being can see time and all of it. They're living every single moment of their lives at the exact same time, right? But that's all theoretical. It's not. I don't know a fifth dimensional being myself. You know, maybe you do, but
not off the top of my head.
you know,
I don't know, Charlie. Do you live in a fifth dimension?
I mean,
Time's
I guess
different for
God
dog.
would
Yeah,
be if you think of God as a fifth dimensional being,
that's fair.
that would make sense. All knowing, all anyway, not
Maybe
important.
he's a zero
Yeah, we're
dimensional
getting
being. A dimension is a
mm,
boundary.
okay.
Hashtag deep.
Uh, anyway, so Korra Alone. We start off with Korra. She. Where did we start with Korra? We start with her at. I think we pick up right where the last episode left off. That makes sense to me because that's where we left off at.
Yeah, right after the fight. Or even,
Yeah,
it kind
that's
of
right.
takes you into the fight a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, so they pick up right from that fight, and Korra is washing herself up, healing herself. The person comes in to pay her, and and I don't know. I don't want my other volume's on. Oh, it doesn't say that it's on. That's weird. Oh, okay, now it does. Got it. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Korra, she's recovered from that fight, and then she sees this like doggy thingy. This dog, yeah, it's a straight up dog. Not a dog mitts or anything.
Just
Just
a
like a
regular
little,
dog. Yeah, it's
looks like
weird.
a. I would probably describe it as a white peekapoo. I have a black peekapoo. It's a half
Okay.
poodle, half Pekingese mitts. Looks about the same height, his size, just haircut a little different. Maybe a little Russell Terrier, maybe that's the right thing. But a little white doggy. Um, that is, yeah. So she follows her, and then she gets. Then we go back to a flashback of right after the events of Chadora's ceremony tattoo. And Korra is is going off or seeing her off. Bolin, was really committed because like I can't wait for you to leave. So I start sending you messages, and the Sami's like, listen, I can come with you. Just more of this planting Korosami stuff going on. There's probably a lot more of that being planted in this episode, especially than the one I first realized. And they get into it in the comics as well, which kind of supports that. Um, so yeah, so then Korra leaves, and Korra is still just having like a terrible time. Like um, she's still getting flashbacks of Zahir poisoning her. Like she's a princess though, right? This is the first time we
Yeah.
see like the Southern Wild Tribe has a whole palace, and she's living in the palace. It's interesting, just a thought of like Korra grew up poor. Like we see that little hut she was in, and now she's like in this palace but she's not like decorated and stuff as a princess, but she is a princess. I don't know what you call a chief's
It
daughter.
it
A
feels a
princess, yeah, because
little.
Princess Yue is a princess.
It feels a little out of character at first when you're watching. Like it feels misplaced, but
Yeah,
you get over it fast when you're watching.
yeah. Oh, we do start to see Korra's dark avatar self. Not dark avatar self, but this shadowy avatar, her reflection of herself with chains on and stuff. Uh, so then Korra's mom is like, hey, you should go see Katara. Like, come on, like we care about you and stuff. Which I really love seeing this. I really love seeing characters doing everything they can
I love it,
to
but it should have happened
fits.
so much sooner. Three
I mean,
years.
no, no, this is happening. Wait, I think it's only been like 6 months
That's only
since
been
she,
6 months. Okay, so the time jumps even
like
are catching
three or
me.
yes. So the time jumps are like when she's talking to her mom, and her mom is like, "You should go see Katara." I think she says it's been
So
like
I
3 or 6
interpreted this as
months.
like before the fight, but I guess like right before
Oh
her
no, it's been
back
three
to
weeks.
Republic City
Sorry.
or something. Oh well,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's been 3 weeks since she fought Zahir and was
I'm glad you're
crippled.
clarifying. That makes way more sense.
Uh, and her mom was like, "Listen, we care about you." I love seeing parents be good parents. Like that's good. You don't see that often, especially in fantasy, because parents are either dumb or they're killed off
Or they're
or
just
something. But
they're
it's
like
like,
non-present Pokemon style, where they're just not there.
yeah,
Yugi,
like
where's all of the other members of your family? Come on, man.
yeah. I guess in Harry Potter it makes sense. I don't want to about Harry Potter. That's the most recently fantasy thing
Oh,
I watched. Like,
I saw a Christino anything about My Chemical Romance, the band. Okay, they have a song called Black Parade, and it's something of a goth anthem. And somebody sent me a video on TikTok, and it was like Christmas party at the Justice League, and it's like Superman and the Flash and Wonder Woman like all dancing and having singing, and then Batman like comes in and he sings this like goth anthem song. I don't know. I'll have to send it to you later. Now it's not making any sense if you don't like MCR, but it's just Batman ruining everything, being gothic, and it made me pretty happy to watch, being all depressed and sad. No offense, Batman.
That's true. Uh, so then she goes to see Katara, and I love how like they talk to each other about their trauma, which is this episode. It did not shy away at like anything. Which I know I'll wrap up my feelings about this episode towards the end. But I just love that Korra is there's no flip of a switch. We rarely ever see our heroes actually deal with their recovery. We rarely ever see them deal with the ramifications of their actions. Like one of the things I hate about current comic books, it seems like everyone has a healing ability nowadays. Like if you have a superpower, they can explain it. They have some type of healing ability connected to it. They can explain it away. Like the Flash has healing ability because they're like, oh well, his
His white
he
blood
speed
cells work
heals
super fast.
or the Speed Force does something. Like Superman, it's like Superman, his Kryptonian cells just heal. Like he's already super strong. He doesn't need super healing to go along with it. It's like everyone has a healing factor, which is annoys the crap out of me. To me, only two superheroes need it: Wolverine and Deadpool, and maybe a couple other ones. But other than that, just quit it with the healing factors. Let things happen to characters, make them vulnerable, and make them deal with it. But anyway, that's get off
That's
my
Chris's like
soapbox.
tough love speech to his superhero children. Like, no, you don't have healing abilities. You deal with it. The I never really thought about that before, but it does feel different, and that's probably why that's probably why this particular the whole book maybe feels different, is because it's built pretty heavily around that, at least from Korra's side.
Yeah, and I like how Katara's also like, listen, I've dealt with traumatic experiences, and if you try to get better, you'll come out stronger than ever on the other side of it. But she's also realistic with her at certain other times because she's like, listen, I don't know what's going to happen, but don't you want to find out? Like you owe it to yourself to find out. Uh, and she talks to her about like, how do you think Aang felt when he learned his whole entire civilization had been wiped away from the world? Like, uh, like they, I feel like in the show Avatar: Last Airbender, this is not a criticism of the show because I love it's my favorite show of all time. So any criticism is me giving honest criticism of the show. But this isn't really criticism. It's just a note that Aang isn't shown that often that he is always dealing with losing his people. Like by episode three, he's back to being happy and normal. Like if that was Korra, Korra's be like, I am not over this. Like even within this season, Korra has like multiple multiple just uh, triggers and stuff. Um, and granted, and I'm not saying that the previous series should have had Aang dealing with that all the time. He dealt with it in a couple different episodes and stuff that were focused in on that, but wasn't continuously thing that seemed like to be in the back of his head. And you could explain away saying like, oh, he's just a kid, or he hides it with his cheerful attitude. I just think he has a cheerful attitude for the most part. I don't think he's like pretending to have a cheerful attitude. I think he is just a cheerful little kid.
Well, Chris,
Um,
maybe some of us don't want to feel feelings every episode, okay?
That's true, and it is more of a it is more of a kids show. So I don't need it to have done that. But I'm just saying here we are with Korra this whole way through.
It goes from
Else,
being an occasional touch upon point to like, no, that's like the foundation of Korra's narrative in this book.
yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, we're not spending an episode, even though she has by the end of this episode she's no longer crippled. She's still dealing with this stuff. Sprite.
What a delicious
Thank you for
soda.
the. um, oh, they also do this like I don't know if this was purposely a Kill Bill thing, but Katara tells Korra to like wiggle her big toe, and that is like a complete thing from Kill Bill Volume One.
I haven't
She's
seen
like,
it
if I
long
could just
enough that
wiggle.
the reference is lost on me. That's funny though.
So, the bride, which is Uma Thurman's
Hmm.
character's name or nickname, she is like she was in a coma for probably 5 years, and she wakes up, but she can't. She ends up killing. She ends up wakes up. Anyway, she gets assaulted while she's been asleep in a coma this whole time, and she kills this guy as he's about to assault her. Sorry for anyone. Uh, but then she tries to get out. She kills him while she's just in bed. And she doesn't even really realize that she can't move her legs, and she gets up out of bed and she just falls on the floor. So she's been in a coma this whole time. Her legs can't wake up.
Falling over when you
Back
have to
to
go pee in the middle of the night. That's what really
and then
happened, Chris. You
so
were in a coma and your legs stopped working.
so she sneaks into this like truck of the guy, and she just lays there. She's like, "All right, I just gotta lay here until I can get feeling back in my legs." And then she just like focuses on her toe. She's like, "Just wiggle your big toe, wiggle your big toe," and then she ends up getting feeling back.
It's
Uh,
been too long since I've watched those. Apparently, it's not. I probably haven't watched those since college. It's time again.
they're good. I mean, I really love Volume One. Volume Two, I believe, is really good. I don't think I loved it as much the first time I watched it, but it's one of those things that grow on you.
I
But I do hate the ending.
remember.
I think I've talked about the ending before, how much I hate it. Well, I don't wait. I don't hate the ending. Let me tell you that back. I hate the monologue that Bill has about Superman at the ending because it's completely wrong about Superman, and Quentin Tarantino doesn't understand the character of Superman. And many people like to quote that. Sometimes I like to bring that up about Superman, and it's completely wrong. But
I remember being entertained, but neither one stuck with me a whole lot. But I probably wasn't appreciative of what was being
yeah.
done.
Anyway, Korra then Chara has her do this walking technique, and she walks to Naga, which is a really sweet moment that I can't even like explain why it's so sweet. It was a really sweet moment of her walking over to Naga, just leg by leg. And you see just the what Korra's going through to get there, because she tried previously and she failed. She had a panic attack essentially. But really good stuff with Katara. Oh, she also flips out at Katara. And some people are like, "Oh, how dare Korra flip out at Katara?" I'm like, no, no, she's going through some stuff. Like that's what you do when you're going through some really deep, heavy stuff. Like, sure, she's wrong to do it, but she's in. It's legitimate, I guess. It's cool. It's fine.
It's realistic.
Yeah, yeah. And then she gets letters. She reads letters from her friends. And it's just so sad to see like it's this one thing I love about this episode is that it paints a picture of like there's a certain balance people have to do with people. It's like, oh, you're injured. Hey, don't worry about anything. We got it. We got it. Don't worry about anything. And then that person feels useless, right? And then it's like that's not the intention that they had, but that's what happened. Like all her friends are going on with their lives. Belinda's getting work with Vera. Mako's doing cop stuff. Asami's rebuilding the city. She's like, my friends are off saving the world essentially, making a better place. I'm just sitting here and can't do anything. Really good more story elements there. And then Core gets all healed up. Um, not all healed up, but Core physically,
Relatively healed.
yeah, relatively healed, yes. Uh, and Cora's feeling better. Tenzin visits her, and I always love this is one of my favorite relationships. I've talked about this before. Just the relationship that she has with Tenzin and his kids. Like they hug and stuff, and she's like, "Look, I want to show you like how far I've come." She has a sparring match and it's to mirror her sparring match in the first episode with White Lotus members, firebending tests, and like at first she's great, and then boom, she has a panic attack and she can't fight. Um, and then Tenzin is like he tries to cover her and stuff, but she's still not feeling it. Uh, and then he leaves, and then I just making Korra feel even more useless and useless. And then Korra's like tells her parents, "Hey, I should go back to Republic City with my friends. I think it'll be good for me." And her father and mother's like, "Yeah, that's great. Sounds good." She's like, "I'll travel alone." And she gets to Republic City, and then she continues to see her dark, shadowy self, and then she goes somewhere else. And at that point, she's traveling in the world to just find answers. And again, it's one of those, like I brought up before, like this is one of those things I love that a character does everything logical within their power to solve a problem, and they still don't come up with a solution. Uh, I just like characters being somewhat smart and logical. She goes to the spirit world. Like she travels the whole freaking world. It's really cool to see her. She goes to a freaking volcano, which is I don't know what she was expecting there, but she was like, "Hey, what can I lose? Let me go to this volcano." Um, she goes to spirit world, the tree of time, and like she tries to have visions again, but she can't. And it's funny that she can't go into the avatar state. The cute little spirits are there. They're so cute, and they actually have kid voices doing them, um, which is also funny. But
I sort of
um,
found it a little unsettling right at first, but it didn't, not in a way that like stuck with me. Like I got over it
yeah.
immediately.
It's so cute, especially that little. She like he sits up in her lap, and of course, like nice to them. She's like, "No, I'm sorry. Like, so many people have said they could help me, but they haven't been able to. Like, I got to do this on my own." Uh, which, yeah, just great stuff there. And then she eventually, the time, I don't think it was really anything. Oh, I almost forgot. She ends up on this like island coastal area, and she runs into a guy who's like, "Hey, you're the Avatar, aren't you? Like, can I get a picture?" And yeah, it shows a picture of Aang. He took that Aang's doing the hand twirly thing, which is really
Yeah.
funny. Like I cried up laughing at that. And then some like thieves try to steal something from somebody. She tries to stop them, but she can't. And at that point, she's like, I can't be the Avatar, which is a really interesting story element. I think that she feels like she's trying to hide from who she is. Like she's never been like that. Of course, never hid. She's always been like, I'm the Avatar. You gotta deal with it. Now she's like, no, I'm not the Avatar. So
Oh,
she cuts her hair.
going back too to that we talked about at the end of last season. I'll reiterate it again. Is like being an alive avatar, but not being able to do your avatar duties. Like there's definitely a sense inside of her is like I would be better to people if I were dead, because at least there would
Yeah.
be the next
And Bryan and
avatar.
Mike in the commentary they mentioned suicide. Not that they just
Right,
haven't mentioned it in
not that
the
she's
conversation.
contemplating
Not
or
that
anything, but that notion of like I'm literally
yeah,
doing people more harm right now than if the next cycle had
yeah.
like
I
had
yeah,
begun.
I yeah, yeah. I don't think Mike and Bryan would ever try and make a character contemplate suicide just
No,
because they know, you know, the power that story has and how it can influence or affect people. But I
absolutely.
mean as a viewer, even though they don't say it, like you don't think Court's go there, but you probably think to yourself, like, she probably feels so helpless right now, that suicide might be I mean, she's depressed. She's the most depressed that she is. And unfortunately, depressed people, uh, they feel like that's the only way they have to go out. The only way that they can be of service to people they love. But that's not true.
They probably go into it exactly the right amount to leave those thought provoking openings, but without bringing any of it to the surface where it probably doesn't need to be.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. So then we kind of catch back up to Korra in the present time, where she keeps seeing this shadowy version of herself. She sees it in this fighting ring, and she goes to fight. And that girl, of course, beats her up like I've seen before. Oh, I'm sorry. And the she ends up following this little doggy. It turns out the doggy is a spirit, and the spirit leads her to the swamp. And then Korra finds shadowy self of her and has a pretty interesting, cool fight with herself, which is just like really spooky. Like she's actually bending, like she is physically fighting something. I feel like reacting to bending, or is doing bending at herself. That like it's crazy when you think about it. Because
I
even in the
I tried not to overthink about it. I just wrote it all off as like a hallucination. That might not be
Well,
the best approach that folks should take when watching that, but that's how I
yeah.
wrote it off.
I mean, there was one scene where her
Excuse me.
shadow itself was firebending at her, and then the camera is like behind the alley, and she comes out the alley. There's fire. So somewhere in there, she produced fire to
Even
bend
that, I would
at
just like that
herself.
could be a figment of her imagination. Still, I don't know.
But there was people there by her, but
That's it.
and people saw it. But,
Hallucinations
but
are a
to me,
wild.
that's just how crazy the mind psychology, the mind's control over the body is. Like, mind is weird.
It's messed up. I tried not to think about it too much. It made my head hurt.
But so then, yeah, so we catch up to her, and then she fights herself, gets beaten by herself. Then she wakes up in this weird dark place, and this old person is talking to her. And like, okay, so I think the trailer for book four, and there was a trailer, weird enough, even though we only had like a week, maybe it was 2 weeks, between the seasons. And I believe the trailer straight up spoiled this moment, which probably
It's
made
a
me
very
mad at the
modern trailer thing
time.
to do.
Yes, like why trailers?
I hate.
Why would you spoil one of the most cool parts? And she wakes up, and then of course it's Toph, and I love Toph's voice. Like Toph's like, oh, some spirit let me here, and Toph like snarkily says like, well, if your avatar spirit let you here, you gotta pay attention to it or something. She says it in a sarcastic tone. I'm like, I don't care about spirits, but whatever.
They truly captured the snark of an
Yeah,
old, grumpy Toph
yeah, and then
very accurately.
yeah, and then see, what does she say? She says, you should probably listen to them. And then she says, oh, of course, it's what, you recognize me? And Tom's like, in a matter of speaking, we were good friends in your previous life in Korra Firebins. And so she could see, she's like, oh, is that you? And uh, Tom says, like, hey, Twinkle
She
Toes. Or
sneaks
nice to
in a
see you
twinkle
again,
toes.
Twinkle
Yeah,
Toes. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. It's so
yeah.
good.
It's
Like,
even funnier. Just like Korra is not a twinkle toes.
yeah, I know, right? um, I find that really interesting because, well, Toph knows who uh, Toph knows who Korra is. She just never met her before. But I love that Toph can still kind of sense the presence of A in her, even though right now Korra is not connected to Rava. Like that doesn't matter. Like even if Rava, I feel like even if Rava was not a thing, some people will be able to realize like, oh, I knew this person in a past life. There's something about them spiritually. But
It feels like a cool nod to extrasensory abilities that she has by nature of being blind. I hope I said that in an appropriate fashion. Is that the is that the end of the episode right there? Curls and Twinkle Toes have a little small talk.
yep, that's the end of the episode. I feel like I'm getting worse, or I just sound
Yeah, no,
worse.
we both definitely are getting worse throughout the night, but we're almost there. We're gonna power through. But yeah, we're both going downhill
Yep,
on the
that is the
health and wellness.
that is the end of the episode. All right, my
Hit me up with your
ratings.
ratings.
Story. Wait, oh, audiovisual. Sorry. Wait, gave it a 9? Yes, I did give it a 9. Audiovisual, a 9. What the voice acting was really good. I thought Jennifer Bryan did a really good job here, especially since she's carrying the brunt of the load in this episode. Also, the music was good, and the background landscapes were like really, really good. Like, those are like hand paintings by people. Well, by this, I think it's by this one person. It's a lady. Don't know her name. Sorry, they mentioned it in the commentary. But really beautiful stuff, especially like stuff in the Tree of Time, and then in that volcano setting. And the music was really good, even though it was like subtle at times. And I think sometimes the best music is the quietest music. So audiovisual. Oh, and the fight between Shadow Korra and herself was really good. Audiovisual got a 9. Story got a 10. I think this is the this is the episode that needed to be watched the most. I think out of all the series, this is the most must watch episode because uh, it's so story driven. They do such a good job of telling a story of a hero who's downbeaten. And like this episode, I think this episode and probably um the storm. Even though I feel like this episode is stronger than the storm, especially character wise. Uh, like the storm with Aang, and the storm is more impactful with Zuko than I think with Aang.
The storm,
But does it
the
feel?
storm feels more, or what? No, sorry. This one feels more organic and less forcey to me than
Yeah,
the storm.
yeah. I also think it feels more personal than the storm. Uh, and Yeah, like to me, the storm is more story driven, more plot driven than character. I mean, it is character driven. It's character driven, really. I feel like for Zuko more so than Aang again. But I feel like this is like very, very character driven. Like this episode is like the background of this is the pinnacle of Korra's character growth or the turning point of Korra's character growth. Uh, and really, really, really good. Just really cool, really not cool, but really just great to see a character go through this. Like we don't, like I said before, we don't see it that often. All right, memorable. Also gets a 10. Yeah, you don't call things Korra. You don't call things alone and expect things not memorable. The last episode called with alone was Zuko alone, and that was really good also. Um, and I feel like that was probably more character driven than plot driven because sure we learned about like Izumi, that's his daughter, Ursa, but I think it was more so character driven than plot driven because that plot really didn't drive that much in the whole entire story.
Still, and
Uh,
somehow still less personal feeling than this one, I think,
yeah, yeah, I
or
think
less
so.
intimate,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Yeah, and Korra, I mean Korra, I feel like she's not alone. That's really good to show that support that she has with her family. She has a pretty good support system, but she's still this is like she feel as a viewer, she feels alone. She looks alone. Like she's walking, traversing the whole entire world, a whole other dimension by herself, and yeah, she's still not finding these answers all by herself. So that's it's really great storytelling, really memorable. What else I want to say? I was saying something I don't remember. Anyway,
You might have
gets
started
a
touching,
10.
maybe you didn't, maybe I'm making this up, but just like the way they do a good job of translating a very sensitive subject. When you're talking about
Yes.
depression or that feeling of loneliness, like when you have
Yeah.
logically a good support system, but it's really hard to translate what that feeling
Yeah.
feels like when you do have that good support system, but you still have depression or you still feel that loneliness.
Yeah.
And they do a nice job of putting that into a palatable story form here.
Yeah. I was also mentioned, unfortunately, Suki alone, I don't think it was a good comic. And that I feel like we should
Rename it.
uh strip strip
Uh,
her of those of that title. No Suki alone.
Suki
Just
moderately not
Suki
accompanied by anything.
Suki imprisoned would have
Su-
worked better. Not alone. She don't deserve it.
Suki
It
set
was a
apart
fine enough
from her
comic.
team.
Yes. Suki minus Kyoshi Warriors.
That's but not double minus because that's a plus. Was that last
Exactly.
episode or this episode? I can't.
I know. It was probably this one, I think.
Actually, was that between episodes?
No, we recorded
We did.
that.
I can't believe we recorded that. It's hard to believe. Uh,
Anyway, so that comes out to 9.7.
that's
Like this is a it's a huge shift from the previous. Like the previous episode was fine, but like it jumped up real high for me.
I wasn't horribly far off, but not to the extent you were. Audiovisual, I did a 9.
Yeah,
Um, I probably deserved higher. There's a lot of different scenery, a lot of different music cuts and things like that maybe I wasn't given enough appreciation. But no, it's really good. No real qualms. Story 9.5. It's very informative. I'm always gonna dock it a little bit because it has like no sort of uh,
yeah,
narrative in the. Like we always have that debate of the overarching versus the standalone. But it's still very good. 9.5. Memorable. I'm going to dock a little bit, Chris. And what it amounts to is I just these sort of downery episodes they just wear on me. So I don't know. It's still not bad,
It's
but
it's my it's one of my I don't like watching this. Of course, one of my favorite characters. Probably one of my records part of my favorite character. Probably my third. In my top three. Batman's always number one. Uh
Virgil.
Horror's in the top three. Yeah, Static will be in there. Uh yeah. Yeah.
But I
I'll
just
probably I got so much more material with Korra that I'll probably put Korra at number two.
I just the I don't know. I mean, there again, I tried to be balanced and fair. Like, there's a lot of really high impact things in here that I remember in a very literal, memorable way. But like, I don't look forward to watching this episode. It makes me feel feelings and stuff. But
Yeah.
whatever. It still rounds up to a 9.3, so it still comes out very
So
sitting very pretty.
9.5.
And that is not a
Not a
7.2.
7.2.
No, what is that? 9.3, 9.7. Gosh, I was terrible this time. 9.5, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, it would have to be a 9.5, right?
Um,
Yeah,
Theoretically, if we both rounded up, it could have been a little, but no, I think it has to
yeah,
be.
that's true.
Yeah. So that is a very distinct jump from the first episode that just feels like a, a kind of an exposition, like a lot of first episodes are. No shade there, and then you dive
Yeah,
into this emotional deep end. It's a pretty stark contrast. At least it kind of softens you up for it at the end of the previous episode when you see her getting her butt kicked.
that's true. It's funny.
It's like a
Mike was
soft
like,
entry.
they showed the episode at New York Comic Con probably, and a lot of people were like, why would Korra throw the fight? And they're like, haha, you think Korra's throwing the fight? Which which a lot of Korra haters is like, I can't believe Korra got beat by this random person. Well, I can't believe Korra got beat this time. Like, do you see what she's dealing with? Like, you can't hold that against her.
I do have some bones to pick, but I think they're better suited for the next episode. Not some bones. I have like one small thing that bugs me a little bit about like the remaining metal poison that Toph pulls out and stuff, but
Oh, okay.
that's probably better suited for the next episode. And I also don't want to overdo it. It's a minor nitpick, I guess. And hey, with that, we're both going downhill pretty fast. So let's cut it off while we're ahead. We made it. We lived. Thanks for bearing with us through two ailing episodes. We appreciate it. We're very excited to be in Book 4 Balance, talking today about Chapter 2, Korra Alone, and we hope you will join us next week. Thanks a lot for watching.
Cool.
I didn't meet you before you said that. Everybody knows you're cold. Alright, I'm muting us now.